Welcome to episode 64 of Talking Prisoner. My name's Matt Batten. I'm your host and producer. Now, the fans wanted to call this episode Heads Will Roll. My next guest is a stage, television, and film actor. He's appeared in several musicals, Express Bongo with Tony Lamond, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown with Jeffrey Rush, and has worked with a lot of Prisoner cast members, including Judith McGrath, Carol Burns, and Maggie Kirkpatrick. He was also the host of a popular children's program, Matchmates. The list goes on with the amount of TV, film, and theatre that he's done. He appeared in 10 episodes of Prisoner, but his character has had a lasting impact on fans all these years later and is still spoken about until today. Now, you have been described as the best villain on Prisoner. Joan Ferguson said the last thing we need is a pretty boy who is still wet behind the ears. Welcome to Talking Prisoner, David Waters. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, man, Matt. Great to be here, Matt.
Thank
Good
you
to be
so
here.
much. Really appreciate your time.
Welcome.
That line from Maggie, I mean, that Prisoner had some great one-liners in it. I mean,
Absolutely. And she had some good ones too,
yeah,
non-stop.
which we will get to shortly. Before we start, I'd just like to learn about your life growing up, if that's okay. Where
Of
did you grow
course.
up as a child?
I grew up in England. I grew up in London, right near Epping Forest. I had three older brothers. So our playground was Epping Forest. We were Robin Hood and his gang. It was a great place to grow up, really. It was really a lot of fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it
What was
was. We made our own bows and arrows, and because in those days too, it was about well, I was born in 1949, so the war has still left its mess,
yeah.
and there were bomb craters everywhere. And I can remember as kids running around Epping Forest trying to avoid the green bombshell
Oh,
craters,
wow.
and shooting your arrows and amazing stuff.
Completely different life to what the kids have got now.
Oh, totally different. Yeah, 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 yeah. But the war always seemed as a kid growing up, it always seemed like eons away to us because I would watch movies and it would be black and white, of course, and it was like 100 years ago, but realizing it was only like 15 years ago, it's weird.
Crazy. And
Yeah.
what was school life like for you? Were you good at school?
School was good. School was okay. I couldn't wait to leave,
Yeah.
but it was good. I like drama, English, and I wanted to be a journalist, so I loved all that. I loved the drama side of it and literature and English. Yeah.
Maths, because there's only been one prisoner cast member so far that loved maths. that
No,
I've
I
been,
didn't like maths. I'm like Maggie, I hated maths. No, I didn't like maths. Isn't it? It's dreadful, isn't it? And they always said to me at school, you've got to have maths. I mean, they tell you all the time, if you haven't got maths, you won't survive. Hey, I survived.
right,
You
yeah.
know,
I
yeah,
keep
yeah.
telling
I
my
can add up.
daughter about it. She should be good at maths, but she's not.
Nowadays, of course, it's probably a very good idea. I mean, with social media and all the technical technology, and so on. But
Yeah,
we didn't.
very true. What did your parents do for work? Were they in the industry or completely?
Well, yeah, my dad was a monumental mason by trade. My mother was a housewife having four boys.
Yeah.
But Dad was also a professional ballroom dancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was. So she met him just before the war, evidently. Well, she did. And he was dancing with, there's a famous dancer called Victor Sylvester. And he had a sister, and he was her partner. And so they used to do a lot of dancing shows around London. And they're famous at the Hackney Empire. And yeah. And I can remember as a kid, upstairs tapping away. He'd put sand on the floor and just sand on top of the lino, and he'd be shuffling up there.
Oh,
You could
wow.
hear him. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, nice man, very talented.
Yeah, amazing. I grew up with a brother, so I can only imagine four of you. I mean, was there fights and all sorts of
Well, I,
craziness?
I was the youngest, and I had three older ones, and there was quite a big jump between us, all of us. I was kind of like wasn't expected, and so they used to fight more than me. Yeah, the older ones. And I was always in, my mother always used to make them take me with them. You've got to take him with you. And they would go off and they'd go scrumping, like in the summer, they would, what scrumping is?
No,
Um,
what's
and
that?
well, in summer, when everyone goes on holiday, usually it's when their apples are ready to pick.
Ah,
And
okay.
so all the kids used to go down the side alleyways and jump the fence and knock on people's apples. And I was always the one that had to stand on guard to warn everybody that someone's coming. But I
Oh,
used to chicken out and run away. So Funny
It's like
days.
a fun life though, growing up in the.
Oh, it was yeah, it was innocent really then, in the late 50s. It was innocent,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I mean, I remember growing up in the 80s and it was still,
Mm.
you ride your bike, you're out in the street late at night with your mates.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's sad in a way. A lot of that's gone, isn't it? The kids too busy
Yeah.
on phones and the internet. It's true. Because we were out every night until late because of the daylight saving and playing in the street, playing cricket, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was one of your first jobs out of school? What did you sort of start after you left?
Well, I wanted to be a journalist. So the last few years at school, I did commerce and I learned Pitman's shorthand and typing because you had to have all that. And I thought I'd start off as a court writer, but I didn't get into that. So I ended up getting into George Noon's Press. And my first job was with them with Country Life magazine, which
Okay.
is gardening and so on, Country Life.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but and I love gardening, but it was just a little bit boring for me. A young kid, I was thinking, it was a bit boring. And they also had the Musical Express, the NME. And I said, I want to get on that. I want to get on the NME. And then eventually a position came up that I heard about, and I pushed them and I pushed them, and they gave me the job. So off I went to Covent Garden, and I became a cub reporter on the New Musical Express, and that was a eye opener. That was brilliant. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
late 60s, everyone used to come through, all the stars. It was brilliant, good fun.
How long did you stay in that for?
Okay, about 18 months.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to. It was like Ida Buttrose used to say, when she started as a copy girl. You have lunchtime, you have to fill in for other jobs. And the receptionist used to go to lunch, and I used to have to do the switchboard. And it was one of the switchboards, but yeah, the old, they used to have the old doll's eye system, you put the thing in. And that was when all the guests would arrive, usually around that time. And you'd get the Kinks, you'd get the Stones, Cilla Black, Dusty Springfield, yeah, all coming in for interviews. And it became blasé after a while. You'd say, oh,
So you
hi.
interviewed the Stones and the Kinks.
I didn't interview them. They used to come
Okay.
through reception, and I'd say,
Yep.
"Would you
I
wait?"
got to see
And they
them.
bum cigarettes from you, and well, I
Wow.
didn't smoke, but yeah, yeah. And I did do a little story later on. I did one about on Cilla Black's. She wrote "This Is My World," and I did a little story on that. Yeah,
Oh,
it was published. Yeah, but the best part of the job was they used to collect the charts every week, so they'd ring all the record shops, the NME, and they get what they sold the most of. And then they compile the top 10. And on I think it was no, Thursday afternoon, it was my job. I used to have to run around Fleet Street with this thing in my hand that said to me, "Don't you lose them, this is gold, these are the charts, don't let anyone get them." And I used to have to deliver them to all the newspapers, the top 10.
oh
It's
wow.
funny. And they were all published the next day.
I love that whole
Yeah.
industry of the
Yeah. Well,
records
good
and everything.
days.
I was listening to a podcast with Simon Cowell recently, and he was talking about when he was trying to break bands into
Oh,
the
yeah.
industry when he first started. And he said he'd go and buy all the records himself to make it look like they were becoming popular and get them the charts.
Yeah, yeah.
They sold out.
I'm sure a lot of people did that. I'm sure a lot of people did. And it was all to do with that because it was all on who sold what. It
Yeah.
was also, yeah, the funny days.
I mean, now it's all just Spotify.
Yeah.
You download a track and off you go.
It is, yeah. But they used to make their money then from records. I mean, God, my brother used to buy records, my older brother. Every week his money used to go on records. He had everybody. It was, a massive collection of records. So
Yeah.
they must have done fairly well in those days. Except lots went to agents and the record company, I suppose. And, you know,
Yeah. No, they did.
they
And
didn't have as many.
talking about this with a friend the other day, we used to go to the record store and we get the Australian top 40 Coca-Cola list. We sort of go through it and then go and listen to the record. And then, you weren't sure which one to buy because they're like $30 at the time. They were expensive for a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. That is expensive. Well, in those days, I suppose they were still expensive because it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, well, it was a luxury, but you bought them. You bought one a week. Columbia. I remember them, the little round discs, and you should push up the middle and put them on the
Yeah.
player.
So when did you come to Australia? Was it in 1960?
Well, yeah, it was sort of like that. My parents had come out already because the three older brothers, would you believe it, from the age of 8, my brother started going. Um, my other brother followed, and then my other brother went when I was about 16. And so I was the only one left. And my parents really missed them terribly. And then they started to have children. They got married and so on. And so then they decided to go when I was about 18. And I said I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to Australia. I was in London and I was having a ball. I really didn't want to go yet, you know. So I stayed with my grandparents and they went.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, they went. So, but I do remember walking past Australia House in the Strand when I was working at NME and I saw this big advertising campaign they had in the window, palm trees and beaches, and they were saying, "We need you, you know, come to Australia. We want you to come. We need you." And I thought, you know, it looks pretty nice. It's sunny, and it was cold and freezing. And I thought, well, it's only 2 years, you know, be like a backpacker. I can come back. So I thought, hey, why don't I do this? So I did. So I
That
came out. Yeah.
you never went back. You stayed
So
there.
I did. Oh, well, I went back many times and I've worked in
Yeah,
England since, but
but permanently
yeah,
here.
I know. No, I didn't go back. No, you're right, Matt. I got out there and yeah, I stayed. Yeah, I
Wow.
did.
It's funny the
Yeah.
perception
Well,
that other countries have of Australia. I deal with a lot of people in America with one of my businesses, and they all think we've got like kangaroos on our front door and crocodiles in our
I
pool. And
I thought that. Yeah, I thought kids went to school on horses. You know, I really believe that they'd be running around. You know, I ride in Brisbane,
yeah,
and because my family were in Brisbane, and I was amazed actually. I was quite. I thought, wow, there's big buildings and you know
yeah,
skyscrapers, you know. So yeah, I was. But it was a bit of a culture shock
yeah,
after. I must admit, coming from like NME and arriving in Brisbane, I would think, oh, I did think for a minute, what have I done? I did. It was like a bit of a shock. For about 2 weeks, I was really depressed, you know. All my friends were over there, I knew nobody, you know. But hey, I settled.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
you do. You
So,
do.
how did you break into sort of into the theatre? Is that where you got your start in the
Well, it
entertainment?
was because, yeah, it was at that time, and my dad said to me, you know, you like the theatre, you like music, you like singing, you like all that. And he also taught me to dance years ago, to a bit of tap and stuff. And he said, why don't you join an amateur group? Why don't you just meet? And I thought, well, that's probably a good idea. So I rang the Brisbane Le Bois Theatre in the Round in those days. It's still there. It's still in the Round.
Oh, wow.
And I rang, yeah, and they said, come up, come and meet. So I went, and they gave me programs to hand out. And I thought, this is fun. There were really nice people there. They were really interesting. A lot of English people in the theatre, you know, but it was really a nice group of people. And I did that. And then I did it for a while, helped backstage. And then somebody said, you should audition. And I said, oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to act. So I auditioned for a play called Little Brother, Little Sister. It was a one actor and it was entered into the Warana Drama Festival. Hey, and I won Best Actor of the Year. So I'd never done it before. It was very fun. Yeah. So that was the bug. Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's what, yeah. And I worked with that company for about, it's an amateur theatre company, but really good, very, because in those days, amateur theatre was really very good. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it still is now. It was very, there's a lot of it. It was, that's all there was, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s. But the
Yeah.
Queensland Theatre Company had just started. Very professional company run by Alan Edwards. He'd come from RADA, he'd from London. He'd very well-known actor. Big company. And he came to see a production I was in. And I was very lucky. I was only a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and he offered me a contract. So that was the beginning.
Wow.
That's my beginning in theatre. Yeah.
Good. One thing I have learned doing this podcast for the last couple of years is a lot of cast members from Prisoner got their start in theatre and said that they're so thankful for that, that they got to learn in theatre first and then get into TV shows and things. Do you agree with that as well?
Absolutely. You know, Matt, a lot of people that you talk about it was that time in Brisbane. It was a very cultural town. There was so much happening. They were doing something. There were three professional theatre companies. Can you believe this? In the early 70s, three professional theatre companies running full rep. Even the Queensland Theatre Company now, unfortunately, isn't,
Yeah.
you know, they do 3 or 4 plays. They don't do 7 or 8 plays a year. It's all money, I suppose. But in those days, the state government were very generous. Mr. Whitlam was very generous to the arts. And the theatre companies were great. And started in the company I joined, the QTC, there was Carol Burns, myself,
Wow.
Jeffrey Rush, Geraldine Turner. Ivor Kantz, Frank Gallagher, um, oh, endless people, and it was wonderful, and we all started together. We all started this guy, and there was also a drama school there because with the QTC we used to study too. We used to train because Alan had all these skills and all these great directors there. So it was a very good company. We used to have a touring company. We would have a city company where called the A team that would be there for 7 shows a year, and then you'd have the other team that would tour Queensland
Yep.
because it was called the Queensland Theatre Company, so we had to go out. And we would go to Billawheeler, Mount Isa,
Oh,
right
wow.
up the top. Yeah, good stuff. Very good company.
And
And that's what we did it.
you mentioned Carol Burns, who, of course, we all know played Frankie Doyle and just played that part so well. And unfortunately, she's not with us. But do you have any memories you can share about Carol?
Oh, look, yeah, lots of memories. Lots of great times with her. I mean, lots of touring memories. She taught me to swim. I mean, it
Oh,
was Carol. We were like being English, you know. I wasn't a very good swimmer. And we were on tour. And in Queensland, it was very hot.
yeah,
And she'd say, and I'd say, yeah, I want to swim. I want to swim. Okay. And she'd take me to the pool every day because we'd be on tour. We'd have our days free. And she taught me to dive. And she was a very out bushy girl, that one. She was in the ocean. She was swimming. We would go getting mussels on the sides of boats and swim out to the boats. There was another time with Carol and Jeffrey. I think it was Grant Dobwell too, because he was in. Do you remember Grant Dobwell from Country Practice?
country
Yeah,
break.
Grant, a good friend of mine. He was in the cast. He played Schroeder, and we hired a boat and we went out on this weekend. We went out on the Whitsunday Passage, and we went out for the weekend. There was all of us on this boat, about six of us, and Carol. We'd been on this island, and Carol had a transistor radio with her. And she took this to the island with her, and we had this radio. Anyway, we went back to the boat, and she went, "Oh, I've left my radio." So she dived back in to the water, and this is the Whitsundays, you know.
Yeah.
She swam out to the island. She's coming back with it in her hand, you know, so it doesn't get wet, and she's swimming with an arm. And as she does that, Jeffrey said, "Look, look!" And there's a shark coming around the other side of the boat. And we're all saying, "Don't scream, don't let her know, don't frighten her," you know. And she's swimming away. I've got it. I'm saying, "Yeah, come on, come on, come on." It was a very frightening moment.
Oh, so you
And we
didn't
got
tell
it
her
right.
the shark was there. You just
We didn't tell her because if we had a,
Luca.
bit of a panic time, But Carol was very cool. But anyway,
Yeah.
but she got, never forget that. That was one time. But we had lots of fun moments. I mean, so many plays with Carol. She played my mother in Juno and the Paycock, my girlfriend in plays. You know, lots
Mate.
musicals.
Yeah.
I played the play Equus, the play Equus. She was in that with me. Oh,
And
lots
did
of
you
many,
know her?
many.
Were you close to her when she got the part in Prisoner? Back in.
Yeah, of course. Well, before that, you see, when everybody leaves, when you leave Brisbane, you decide, okay, any city here in Australia, you think, okay, we've done 6 years in theatre, non-stop. It's time to go. So when I did Equus, Robin Lovejoy was the director that directed me in that. He was with the Old Tote, and he said it's time to come to Sydney now, and so I did. I came down. He helped me get a great agent in Sydney and so on. And then Carol was down here already, and Jeffrey. We all started to come down, and Carol. I worked with Carol quite a bit then. I did a thing called an ABC series called Loss of Innocence with her. And then I did a telly movie, Corrie Lansdowne. No, 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 that was with Wendy Hughes. I did. Anyway, I did. No, it was Corrie Lansdowne says no. No, it wasn't. What was it? Anyway, I did another film. I can't remember so many things. Then one day she rang me and she said, "Hey, I want to meet you for coffee." So I said, "Okay." So we met in Glebe for a coffee, and she said, "I've been offered this part in a TV series in Melbourne." And I said, "What is it?" She said, "It's a woman's prison." And I'm playing this kind of like crazy gay woman. And I said, "Oh, well, good character part." She said, "Yeah, yeah, it'll be fun. It looks good." And I said, "When do you go?" She said, "Tomorrow." And I
Well,
said, "Where will you live?" She said, "Well, I've got a camper van. No, a mobile home. And I'm going to park it at Nunawading." And oh, well, I'll park it
okay.
outside and I'll live there and I'll go. And she did for
Well,
many years. She lived in the van, yeah. And that's how it started for Carol. And so
yeah.
that's why I became a fan, of course, because I used to. And then,
Oh,
of
so
course,
you were
Judith
watching
comes into
Prisoner
it.
when at the start.
Oh, Carol had to, yeah. Had to see her. And so I knew other people, Tina, well, Tina came later, but
Yeah.
And Maggie, of course, wasn't in it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Amazing
that was good. Yeah.
story. Yeah, because Ken, who used to host this podcast with me, who was the cameraman on Prisoner from start to finish, he had a story about Carol saying, she finished, obviously, she only did 20 episodes, I think it was, or 19. And she was very emotional her last night there. And she asked him to stay back for a drink or just to hang around. She just wanted to sort of be in the studio and leave the character. And yeah, she was really
Yeah.
emotional about it.
Just, Carol was a stunning actress. She was a fabulous actress. She could play anything. She's Lucy to a role like the mother in Juno and the Paycock, which is a really heavy Irish play set in the wars, 1923 in Ireland. She's played, I can't tell you the role. She's and always stunning, fabulous actress. And she could go from stage to TV really well in cinema. Yeah, fabulous. And a generous actor, you
Yeah,
know. And I think that's what it was, Matt, too, in those days. When you train in um, a situation where you're all working together, training. We used to work all day long in rehearsals for one play, and we'd go and do the show in the evening. We'd do 8 shows a week, but we're rehearsing the next one, so that would finish on the Saturday night, and on the Monday you'd open the next production. So
wow.
you'd play, yeah, you're doing
Constant.
this, and you go from musicals to dramas to great training.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you don't get very hard to get now unless you're at the National Theatre or the Royal Shakespeare Company.
I
Hard to
think that's
get.
where a lot of actors sort of, that want to get into the industry just want to go straight to you know, straight to the
Yeah,
top and not sort of worry about theatre and things like that.
I know a lot of people. Well, yeah. I think theatre's getting its buzz back a little bit. There's a lot of fringe happening. There's a lot of good fringe happening, which is good to see. It's just there's so much money to put theatre on, and tickets are so expensive. And getting venues, we're very short of venues in this country, the theatre. But yeah, they do. A lot of people go straight to film. And they're good on them. But neither in places like Whopper, they still core thing is theatre, even though they work on, film and television. So that theatre training does carry you through, I think. I think it's the technique, Matt, that you use. That's what gets you through.
Yeah, and I
Some
mean that's something I want to talk to you about shortly with your
yeah,
director on Prisoner, because one great thing about doing this is I get to go back and I rewatch all the episodes and go over things, and the acting's just amazing. I mean, and your like the part you played, I mean, it was just like it was so real, and even scenes with just your eyes. I mean, you're playing some scenes with just your eyes only.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was
It was
absolutely
a fun role because
great.
it's almost like a theatre role. So you're playing a psycho, and you've
Yeah,
got two characters. One, and
yeah,
yeah. So I did enjoy it. That's what another thing that appealed to me about the role, getting it, it was good fun. When I say good fun, yeah, it was dramatic, but and the people were great to work with them, and good
yeah.
directors and a lot of help, a lot of support. Yeah.
Definitely. We
But I
will
think that,
President
yeah,
in just a second, but you also did work with a favorite actress of mine, Judy Farr. Do you remember working with Judy from
I did work with Judy Farr, yeah.
Kingswood
I
Country?
worked with and Maggie, we did, and yeah, we did Sailor Beware.
Okay.
Which is a comedy. And there was a TV series in England called, now what was it called? Um, anyway, I'll let that one go. But Maggie played this character, and I was playing her husband in it, this little man that she used to crush all the time, and he would come home and he'd go, "I want my dinner now, and I want it proper." And she'd say, "You got in there, Alfie," and very Maggie. And we did that wrong. Judy played my sister, my older sister.
Oh, okay.
So that was a lot of fun to play.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, she's a great actress. Great
Oh,
actress.
yeah, yeah. Judy, oh, they both were.
Oh, Maggie
Carol
as
Skinner,
well. Maggie, definitely.
Carol Skinner was in that. Yeah. As well.
Sorry, who was
Carol
that?
Skinner
Sorry.
was in
Oh,
that.
Carol Skinner. Wow.
Carol Skinner. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Another prisoner girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Now, you first appeared in episode 408, written by There's so many writers on Prisoner. I actually hadn't heard of this writer before. Magda de la Pesca and Betty Quinn, who we all know. It first aired on the 18th of October, 1983. And just I'd like to throw in trivia around that time. Can't Slow Down was the second studio album released by Lionel Richie at that time as well. I like to throw in a bit of trivia. Um, your first scene was in the staff room with Maggie, Gerda, Elsbeth, and Judith. Can you remember? Was that your
Mhm.
first actual scene you did on Prisoner
I
when
think it
you
was. I think it was. Yeah, I
yep,
think it was. Yeah, I think it
staff room?
was.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any new scene, whenever you're going, especially television, you're always nervous. Every actor is because you're sort of, you know. But luckily, I knew a couple
You,
of people,
yeah.
and yeah, and your adrenaline's pumping. But hey, it's a very easy thing to do. The set's easy. They take their time a little bit. So yeah, it was a good scene. It was a good way to be introduced. Yeah,
Especially
very fun.
knowing Maggie and Judith.
Oh, knowing Judith so well too, because again, like Carol, I'd done so many plays with Judith, heaps and heaps of plays.
How did you get the how'd you get the part? Did you have to audition for it? How did it all happen?
Well, I just finished doing Matchmates for nearly 2 years in Sydney, and I wanted to get back into some drama. I mean, I didn't want to end up being I didn't want to be a TV host really. I enjoyed doing it. It was another string to my bow, and I loved working with the kids,
Actually,
but
if
it
we
was
can go
really
back,
hard
if we can go
work.
back a minute with Matchmates, I'd like to talk about that as well. How did that come about?
Okay.
Matchmates.
Matchmates.
Yeah.
Um, Well, I was doing a bit of comedy in Sydney. I was working at the music hall, and I was doing some commercials, which I did do at the time because hey, it was good money in those days. I didn't do too many, but I did commercials for this young guy fronting a retail store, and he was a comedy role, and it was a likable chap. And so Channel 9 thought, hey, let's get him in, and an audition. So I did, and I was lucky enough to get the role. But then I didn't know quite what I was doing. I thought, oh, I've gone for this audition, but I'm hosting a TV show. I've never done this before. I'm used to a script, and I hide behind a character. They want me to come out front. So I watched a lot of Tony Barber on Side of a Century, and and Bert Newton on his quiz shows during the day. And so I fronted it, and you get there, you just yourself, you relax, and the kids were great, but it was really hard work. I mean, you have production meetings during the week, and then you do 5 shows on a Saturday. So you arrive at like 8 in the morning, and you do 5 shows. So you're doing three Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the morning, and then Thursday, Friday in the afternoon. Completely turnaround of audience, new clothes, and you're out there going, "Hey, good afternoon, welcome to the show." And you've got to be different for each one. So it was good training, really good training.
Hard work. So what happened to
Yeah.
Matchmates? That just lasted for 2 years and
Well, I
then
think I really didn't want to go on doing it anymore,
yeah.
because I think it reached it was doing well, and it's good to finish at a peak, I think. And I'm an actor at heart, and I basically you got to be very careful because in those days too, you could find yourself slipping into and the money's good, and they offer you other things. And I thought, no, I don't want to lose everything I've done. I want to get back to the theatre and television and that. So I went down to Melbourne, as you do, and I went to see Crawford's. Um, and I went to went to see Bunny Brook casting, see what she had anything. Then I trotted into Grundy's. It was a Friday afternoon, very wet, about 4:30. I remember going in, and they say, "Oh, David, hello, how are you?" I said, "Good." Um, I said, "I'd just like to say hello, see what's happening, any work, what's happening." And she said, "Actually, we're casting something. We've just got the script now, and I'd love for you to read it. You could be, would you read for it?" I said, "Sure, I'd love to read for it." So I did it that afternoon. I don't know. It was a crazy, bizarre thing. I think I had to be tied to the desk, and I was having this scene. I was having this neurotic scene or something. I can't remember too much, Matt, but I remember it was a long time ago. But I remember thinking it was the sort of thing I liked doing because all my theatre acting came out. I was being very dramatic. And so I left thinking, well, maybe I was too over the top. I don't know. And I got a phone call from my agent that afternoon at 5 o'clock saying they
Same
want you
day.
for the
Wow.
role. So yeah, it was good.
Wow.
So I
Well,
wasn't quite sure what I was doing,
it's funny though because
but
Coral
I took it. Yeah.
Coral Druin, who's been on
Sorry.
Coral Druin, who's been on this show a lot of times, and she comes on with me sometimes. She actually created your character. She
Yeah.
spoke about your character and creating it.
Did she?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah. So she was one of the script
Oh, I
writers
didn't
of
know
the
that.
show, and yeah. So.
Oh well, I didn't know that. Thank you, Coral. I didn't. I didn't know that. That's funny. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was interesting.
Oh,
Something different.
amazing.
That's
It was amazing. And
yeah.
the character is so strong. And just going back to Matchmates for a second, I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen, there's an episode on YouTube, and I'm just grabbing it up on my phone now. So there's a full episode there. And one of the comments is, did he set anyone free? It's
All right. Is that true? What was it on the Matchmates?
on the Matchmates episode. So your character of David Bridges has fallen, it's gone into the Matchmates as well.
Not quite with you, Matt. Explain that to me.
So, in Prisoner, you were setting some of the inmates free. That was your sort of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
tagline.
yeah, yeah.
Someone's made a comment on the Matchmates episode saying, did he set anyone
Oh,
free?
sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's
I gotcha.
quite
Okay.
funny.
I gotcha.
So, yeah, so you got the part in the same day. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was good. That was
Happen
good.
often.
Yeah, that was nice. And I love Melbourne,
Yeah.
and it was good, being able. And at the time when my agent said, "Well, it's a 12-week or a 10-week block," and I thought, "Well, that's perfect because." Again, a bit like Carol, we didn't want to go in it for too long because at the time you think if you do it in those days, if you get typecast a little bit, so 10 weeks is great, but trouble is I got into it and I didn't want to leave.
I was about
I
to ask
loved it.
you that.
Yeah,
So
I
you
loved
did
it.
that short period. Did you want to stay on?
Yeah, but after about 4 weeks, I was enjoying myself so much. I loved doing it. I loved the cast. Yeah, it's a nice, really happy place. Really, it was, and a good, nice bunch of people. And I only enjoyed the character very much. So I thought, oh, don't want to end now. And I still wasn't sure what the ending was going to be. At that stage. Yeah.
Well, the
So
ending was episode 417,
yeah,
was like
yeah,
a scene that's still. We had a Talking Prisoner annual event last year, so I get some of the cast involved, and we have 50 fans come along to Richmond, and I host a Q&A, and it's a lot of fun. We had Babs and McMillan there, and the first question they asked Babs, can we please talk about the scene with David Bridges in the garden shed? So it's such an iconic scene and such an iconic character, even though it was
was.
a short time. But
Yeah.
what was it like to shoot the scene in the garden shed, which I'm sure you've spoken about, but for our
Well, I mean, it was a heavy scene. It was dramatic, and it was very real because we were outside in the shed. It wasn't a set, and with all the stuff around us. And I think we had a very limited crew. We had one makeup person. Um, the camera was a handheld camera, um, and at the table, and Babs and I, and the director. Oh no, I think the director was talking to us. Can't remember if he was in the room or if he was talking from this. Can't remember now. Anyway, there were limited people. So, and we rehearsed it a couple of times, and it was very sort of edgy. We were there, and then he said, "Do you think you can do it in one?" And we thought, "Absolutely, we'll do this in one." And we did. We did it in one.
one
Because Babs is one of it all. Yeah, yeah, it was good. But the poor cameraman, the cameraman, because when I'm wielding that knife. And you'll notice that I'm coming at the cameraman with that knife,
Yeah,
and he's got the camera here,
yeah,
and his face is there, and I had to be very careful with the swiping because he was very close to that knife. Yeah, so it had to be sort of choreographed pretty, right, which it was. It was choreographed well.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
speaking of that knife, it was really funny because of the scene that you had in the shower scene with where they tied Maggie Kirkpatrick up and put her up on the roof, hanging from the roof, and you had to
yeah,
go in and rescue
yeah,
her. You just pull out a knife, and I'm thinking
yeah.
this officer's
Oh,
just
I think
put a knife in his pocket. Yeah.
David always had that flick. It was a really good. You flick it, and the knife came out. I think he always had it with him because he never knew when he was going to get the opportunity to set someone free.
Yes.
So, you know, and he really believed he was setting them free. I think, like he was quite sincere about that. I'll get you out of here. It was a dreadful place, and I mean, the very first one, I think, the blonde lady, Mary, it
Mary
was
Adler.
Mary, I think, character. Yeah, yeah, and he felt. I remember the character was very sorry for this woman. She's got to get out of here. So yeah, I did it.
Yeah, and that's I found your character so fascinating because they had some villains in Prisoner, like male officers, Len Murphy and Jock Stewart, who, they killed one person, but you're on like a
Yeah,
rampage. You were
it was a bit of.
four or five inmates.
Tina says, "You're not really going to get me, are you?" I said, "I don't think so." Um, Mister, I think it was Zoe got it.
Zoe Bertram, yeah, he played Randy
Bertram got it, yeah.
Club, yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah. And that was a great scene as well, which I want to talk to you about because where are my notes here? So Tina was meant to come, but she didn't, and so Zoe did. And
Yeah,
you took her off to the boiler room, and she's like, "Why are we going to the boiler room?" And you're like, "Well, it's magic carpet." I don't know if it was a
that's right. That's right.
magic
That's right.
carpet ride by the song.
Right. Yeah. And she's up there, while I'm licking the blood, you know.
Yeah, you're just sort of over the machinery, like just smiling. Like, I mean, it was great. It was fantastic. Just yeah, love the character. Um, Now going back to Randy, good luck. Would you have liked them to shown the murder? Because obviously they didn't show how you killed her.
I think that would be going a bit far, I reckon, I think use your imagination with that one. I think, Matt, to see the murder would be a bit much, a bit too, you know, a
Yeah,
bit too now, it's like streaming everything. You see all the murders now,
pieces.
but I think then it would have been a bit. Yeah, would be. I mean, I don't think they ever showed. I think, it was in America. I think when Cell Block H was shown, they didn't actually show. Or was it here? They didn't show the head falling, did they?
Yeah, I
No, they
think.
cut it. They
Yeah.
just. Well, I think in the States the head went. I think they actually
Oh,
saw
didn't.
the head.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the head actually hit the ground, which would have been a bit macabre.
Well, you
But
do anything in the States, so it's
all that work they did on the head, it was all lost, in our version. But
that
yeah.
head's still a fan's got that head somewhere
I heard about that. I
in
heard about
Australia.
that.
Yeah.
Someone got it. I've got the plaster cast head, the original what they get I've got that on a plinth, you know.
Oh, wow.
So when I finally say goodbye, that hey, they got me here.
Yeah, that's amazing.
David. Yeah.
What was the green room like, which was obviously down in that tunnel? What was it like to spend a bit of time in the green room with everyone?
Very claustrophobic. Oh, I mean, Carson's Law is being filmed at the same time, which is another TV series. And they had, I think it was some island series was being filmed as well.
But
Finish right.
Island.
Yeah, 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 that's right. But they had the better. Carson's Law got the better green room. I
Oh,
think
really?
they, I think they were before us. Maybe that started before. Anyway, they got the big green room with the windows,
Yeah.
and our green room was a box on set with no windows, just like this container on set. However, inside it was a lot of fun. It was like St. Trinian's, all the girls running around and benches all around the sides. So yeah, there was never a dull moment inside that green room. Yeah.
Would have been amazing. Be a fly on that wall back in the day would have been.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, everyone was learning lines as well, but there'd be everything happening in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We had air conditioning, by the way. It was air conditioned.
Oh, good. At least they could do that for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of the traditions we have on this show is we whoever does have a memory of Sheila Florence, we like them to share something because obviously she's no longer with us, sadly. But you had a great scene with her in your last episode. What was it like working with Sheila?
Well, that particular scene, one of those scenes, that was on the cliffhanger, you mean?
Yeah,
That was when I actually pulled the knife, that famous knife. And just before they were going to shoot, she said, "Now you will focus, Mr. Bridges, won't you?" Well, the knife came right up to her throat. She was freaking about that one. But that was funny. But she had a very posh speaking voice, our Sheila. She was an actress from way back, she was terribly super. And she was saying, "Now, Mr. Richards, you will be careful with the knife." I'd say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I went to dinner with her once. She invited me home and she told me, you may know this, Matt, I don't know, but she started acting. She went to London before the war and she got a job on the West End. She was working in theatre on the West End. And then the war broke out and she couldn't get back to Australia. And she said she was actually dodging bombs. She would be performing, and the siren would come. The cast and the audience would all go down to the shelter. The all clear would come, and then go back into the second act.
that's
Amazing days it must have been for
yeah.
us. So she,
I watched a
Yeah.
movie called Mrs. Henderson Presents a long time ago, and it was based on
Oh
that
yeah.
theatre, the
I
war,
remember
and they're performing, and you're hearing the
Well, that's
siren
her. That
bombs, and that was absolutely awful.
yeah, yeah. She, and also another memory of Sheila was I think it was on Fridays we used to relax a bit and people used to bring in their own lunches and things. And Sheila would always sit there with a lovely pate de foie. She'd have a lovely chicken pate and a nice Guinness. She
I
would,
heard she loved the
you know,
Guinness.
funny memories. Yeah, she, a nice lady, a nice lady. Again, a nice actress and always there for you, you know, gave a lot, you know.
It
They
was
all
funny
did,
when I
really.
first heard her. I saw an interview with her, and I hadn't heard her talk before, only on Prisoner. And it was really weird to hear her speak in that voice, and compared to Prisoner,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
really bizarre.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah.
your
Yeah,
character had a really good backstory as well with your mum and everything like that. What did you like about your character?
um, I like, well, I don't know a lot about the backstory, you know. We talk about the backstory. I know from what I remember was that she died in a house fire. Did you know this? The mother,
Yeah,
I think it was a house fire, and somewhere David was involved with that. I don't know what he did or whether it turned his brain or whether, you know, he caused the accident. I'm not sure, but there was something terrible was happening there. And he kind of wiped that from his mind, I think, and he created a different ending for his mother because I think there's a time when Meg, I think, confronts him with a photo.
yeah,
uh, He says, "Oh no, that's not my mother. Can't be my mother. She died 15 years ago," or something like that.
yeah.
And so there was he had another scenario going. So yeah, well, it all helps because I knew he was, you know,
Crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, bipolar, very, very screwed up man, a schizophrenic. No, I hate to say schizophrenic because that's labeling people, but he was split personality, wasn't he? He was very much a, you know, but I liked him because he genuinely was a nice guy, you
Yeah, he
know.
was. Yeah, that
He
was a
wasn't
funny.
a conniving,
Yeah.
like, you know, Jack the Ripper. He wasn't going out trying to find ladies and murdering them. You know, he really believed that he was helping them, and that's what I based it on, you know. Um,
Did you ever go to the writers and say, "Can you keep me in longer because you like the part"?
Do you know what? I was tempted. I was tempted. But on the last day, it was very funny when we had the blood scene, and I'm covered in blood, and everyone's going, "Oh, you know, you okay?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And you're a bit, you know, you're a bit stressed, you're a bit tense. And I went to the canteen
Yeah,
to get a drink, get a cup of tea. I remember going to the canteen and sitting there, and everyone saying, "Oh, look at you." And then the director came by, and I can't remember the director. I'm sorry, but the director walked by, and I think he was a New Zealand guy that came out because they used different directors. And he said, as he walked by, he went, "David," he said, "I just wanted to let you know your character's coming along really well," which really confused me because my head's laying on the floor. And I thought, hey, maybe they're going to bring me back because David's brother, you know, or the
yeah,
ghost.
twin. Yeah, he could be a
Yeah,
twin.
yeah, the twin. But hey, it didn't happen. No.
Oh, that's funny. Techniques for learning your lines. I like to ask this question of actors. What do you do to learn your lines to remember them?
I think that goes back to the theatre days of we were
Yeah.
always taught that if you if you if you learn your lines, if you learn your lines too soon, it's dangerous because you get locked into a character that you haven't discovered yet, and it just becomes words. But with television, of course, you haven't got that luxury, so you've got to learn them quickly. And so the best way of doing it is before you go to sleep. Basically, we used to do that in the theatre too, that you go through your scenes and you go through the scenes you're falling off, and then you go through your heavy scenes, and you know, it stays with you, your mind, you know. You wake up in the morning and there it is. It works. Works for me. Yeah, not all of them, of course, but you've got the gist of it. You know, you get you on your way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, last time before you go to bed.
Uh,
Mm.
Now you played a very heavy character.
It changed them, man. It changed them, man. I just want to say this, as all the actors know, you learn your scene, you got it, and then you'll get on set and they'll go, "Oh, script changes," and you go, "What? Huh, you're not changing it?" And they say, "Yeah, you're going to say this now." What? Oh, I can't do that. You know.
So did that
So
happen
you
on
have to.
Prison
It's
for
on.
you?
Lots, yeah, look, it happens in all of it. And
Yeah.
it's on the spot stuff because you've got to remember in Prisoner, see, a lot of the other stuff I did for the ABC, I did worked a lot for the ABC in those days, which was a luxury because you'd get a week's rehearsal before
Oh,
you did it. yeah, you'd block it. You get a lighting block. You'd walk through it with the lighting people. It's quite luxurious. And then you'd come in and you'd film it. It's like doing a play in a way. Where Prisoner in those days and Country Practice was similar. You
Yeah.
churning out I think, a week, and you'd be jumping from one scene to another. You'd be doing a scene from episode 408, and then you'd be doing a scene from 409 because they want to use that set and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you've got to be on the ball.
Pretty unheard of
But
now, though. Like I deal with some people in television over in the States, and
yeah,
we often talk about Prisoner as well, and they're like, they can't believe they're
yeah,
shooting 2 episodes a week, and this
yeah. And
hard.
Matt, though, great training. And the crew, I mean, to be able to do that, the crew would be running around, and they were your helpers. I mean, there's times that the crew were fantastic on Prison because they would help you with the lighting, and they'd put you, they would be like assistant directors a lot of the time. Really good, a lot of
Yeah.
help.
That's another thing I've learned with this podcast. The camaraderie between the crew and the cast was like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
cast member talks so highly of every crew member
it
on
was true. It's really true. From makeup to wardrobe, fabulous. I mean, I'll never forget when I was having I'll never forget when I was getting that plaster Paris, the head.
yeah.
I was in I was in the dressing room at Channel 10, and they start to build you up to stuff. And I didn't realize I was coming. I thought, what's happening here? And I didn't quite realize what it would be like. And it's quite frightening because at one stage you're completely covered and you've just got two straws
Oh,
and you're
really?
breathing through these two straws and you start to think, oh, and then do you remember? I'm sure it was Annette Allison. Do you know Annette Allison? She used to do the weather. She was a model when I knew her, but she used to do the weather or the news on Channel 10. And she came into the makeup room and she's going, "Oh, what's going on here?" And I could hear this through the muffled. And I remember the makeup girl saying, "Oh, it's David. He's getting his head." She said, "That looks terrible." She said, "If I poured those straws out, he would die, wouldn't he?" And I'm thinking, "Don't touch the straw." But
Hmm.
it's true, you could. So anyway.
Wow.
Like,
You couldn't see,
I,
or you could only
no,
hear.
you can't. No,
Oh,
you're completely gone, and you can hear muffled talking, and you've got these two straws which you breathe through. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
crazy.
It's really glad that came off.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now you knew Maggie Kirkpatrick prior to Prisoner. Did she give
No,
you
I
any?
didn't. Actually.
Oh,
I
you did.
didn't. I knew of Maggie, and
Oh,
I've,
you
I've
knew of
met
her
her. I think at occasions, but I worked with her afterwards, and I
after.
worked with Sailor
Oh,
with
sorry.
Sailor
Okay.
Boy 20 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. What
So
was it
I hadn't.
on Prisoner?
She looked formidable. I mean, Maggie was in nearly every scene.
Yeah.
She worked very hard, and she was always on set. So although I was there for 10 weeks, we didn't get to be with each other a lot in the green room, only on set. And also we used to fly back every Friday, we'd fly back to Brisbane, I
Oh,
mean to Sydney, sorry, and then fly us back every Monday in those days. It was great. So we were together basically on set. So I got to know Maggie, but Maggie, uh, the character, Maggie, really, more than Maggie. And I found the character was really formidable. And as David Bridges, she kept me on my toes. She was an amazing character. And she was in character a lot because she was always on set.
yeah.
So yeah, but of course I met her in the green room. Of course I did, but I
Yeah.
knew her more as her character.
Jane Ferguson.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I
Jane
think that's one of the
Ferguson.
problems they had with Prisoner when they introduced, say, like a character like yours,
Yeah,
came in for a short time because they didn't want to overshadow her character,
yeah,
always corrupt and
yeah,
up to
yeah,
some,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So that would
yeah,
have been hard. Um,
yeah.
how did you get into character? Was it like a natural for you to get into that sort of psycho part of David Bridges, or
I think like most actors, I mean, y- with a stage play, you get in 25 minutes early, you get a half hour call, you've got time to sort of, get ready for it, and you're ready for your entrance, and then you've got 2 hours to really, you're into it, and when you finish, you're like wasted. With television and film, as you know, it's you're sitting around for so long, and you've got to be really quick. You've got to so you use technique a lot. So you just switch in. You just know. You just go, and you. I like to stay in character, to be honest. I used to like to, especially when I had big scenes coming up. I think Maggie did too. I used to go off in a corner. I didn't really like to go off out of character. I'd sort of stay there with him a bit. I mean, you can never lose as an actor, you always keep 10% awareness, even on stage, because if you haven't got that 10% awareness, you could fall off. You don't know where you're walking. So 90% you're staying character, but you've always got that other awareness where you know where to move, where your mark is, what's happening. And so in the green room, that's what I do. I stay with that so that when they call me, I'm ready. I think most actors do, though, Matt. I think really they do. Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
it's still beautiful.
It's technique
You know,
and of course, truth. I mean, you're really there as the person. You're not using technique in in your belief. You really are the actor. You are the person, the character. You know,
yeah. Are you
but you can switch off. You don't.
on that? Yeah. Are you shocked at how popular the show is still to this day? Like 2024, it's still being.
Mate, I'm amazed. I am amazed. I was amazed. I mean, because I was in it for that short time. I mean, at the time, it felt like a long time because
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever been in a TV series before for that long. I'd done lots of guest roles and that 4 or 5 times in country practice and this one and cop shops and all these, but I'd never been in a long running thing. So I thought that was fabulous. And I couldn't, but I knew Maggie and all those other people have been in it for years. So when I started to get things like presents from Ireland and presents from the States, and I thought, what's going on? What are these people sending? I was only in it for a minute. And so that's been happening for years.
Yeah.
So I still get people writing to me from America asking me for, which is crazy. Yeah, I'm very flattered. And it just says for the people that created Prisoner and for all the other guys that were in it, it's amazing what they achieved. Amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also to have a spin-off show written about at Wentworth, which
Yeah. Yeah. And didn't Carol do one too? Didn't Carol do the Frankie Doyle story and go
yeah,
to America?
I hadn't actually seen that.
No,
Yeah,
I think wasn't it done in the States
I think
or
so.
it was to do? Yeah,
Yeah,
Frankie Doyle story.
yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
It lives on forever, and it will. And that's why I mean that's why I did this podcast because I just want to interview every cast member and
Yeah.
crew
Yeah. Yeah.
that I can, and have this all here on YouTube for you know.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I think it's the fans have been just incredible, haven't they? Supporting the show, and they're always there. I think they're wonderful. Yeah, it's just great.
The cast can't believe. I mean, when I have the event every year, the cast are just blown away that the fan. And I mean, I'm just a fan myself, but how they know so much about the show. They know more than the actual cast member.
No, I think my God, they know more than I do. True, true.
I've got some fan questions before we wrap up, if
Mm.
that's okay. There was
Sure.
a lot, but I've just sort of condensed them down because
Please.
obviously the biggest fan question was about the scene with Babs, which we've spoken about. But Max Dweeb said one of the best villains in the show, fantastic character, and David acted him brilliantly. Another great character that was not in it for very long. Was it always planned for you to be only just in for 10 eps? Or was there any talks of you dying in a different way? Or was it always going to be the beheading? Did you know that you were going to be beheaded when you
Yeah,
first?
well, as I mentioned before earlier, I think about 5 weeks in, I knew that was what was going to happen. I didn't know how they were going to finish it, but I knew they'd locked it in, so they couldn't really change it. So, but I would have loved it to have been etched out a little bit. Yeah, yeah, I would have. But
Def-
still, in a way though, if it hadn't have ended, then it wouldn't have been what it was, because if that wouldn't have been that nice vignette, it wouldn't have been the David Bridges story, as it is. So I think it probably worked out
Oh,
well.
the ending
I think
was
they knew
great because, typically they could have just,
they
you
could. It could have
gone,
drifted
got
off. They
arrested,
knew what they were doing.
moved on
Yeah,
to a tail, or yeah,
they
definitely.
knew it. Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Charlton said, growing up, I fondly remember watching David Waters host the popular game show Matchmates. I'd love to hear about his experience hosting the show, which we've covered, and how he transitioned to appearing in the iconic Prisoner and then going to Matchmates. Additionally, I'm curious to learn more about his ventures as a restaurateur in the Blue Mountains. What restaurants did he own and what made them so special? Which I'm actually curious about too.
Cool. Well, I had a business partner and a friend that who was a chef, and we've had quite a few restaurants. In the old days, in 19 before Prisoner, before I went to London to me and my girl, I did a place called Frying Times Fish Cafe. We opened it in Glebe, and we had it like an actual takeaway fish and chip shop, but sit down. It was very cool. We had a neon fish in the window with a top hat and a cane, and we used to have jazz. We built a set, and a friend of mine was working at the ABC, and they gave us a set, an old set, and we had this rostrum, and we had a great mural painted at the back of it, and a great jazz piano. And we used to have jazz going the whole time. So people used to queue up for fish and chips, listen to the jazz, and people used to sit down, listen to jazz. Yeah, and all the dishwashers were from NIDA. They were all young actors that needed jobs, and lots of young jazz musicians who are now famous used to work there. So that was the first one. And
Wow.
then we moved on. What happened then? Then I went to London to work, and then we came back, and then opened another restaurant in Sydney, a French restaurant called Simply French, and I had that for about 7 years, and then graduated to the Blue Mountains and had a deli cafe, which was one of those in London. They used to have these wonderful delis with all the pastrami's and stuff, and a cafe as well, like in Covent Garden. So we opened one of those.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, I went to Art Gallery and had another restaurant called the Gallery Restaurant. And then finally to Blackheath in the Blue Mountains to a restaurant called Escarpment, which was a French bistro type place.
You
But
still
that's
have,
when, no, I retired from restaurants about 9 years ago.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like theatre, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I
Did
mean,
you
in
do
the
the
old
cooking
days,
or the front of house?
no, no. When I could, I often do front of house, but it got a bit difficult because people say, "Hey, aren't you in?" So, which was nice, but it was a bit difficult. So, I did a lot of the back scene stuff, and I used to actually in the old days though, I was doing Me, My Girl in Sydney, and I remember I used to be the star of that show, and I used to cycle to the theatre, Her Majesty's, cycle home, and then wash up at the restaurant. So hey, it was very humble.
Yeah.
Humble days.
And your
Actors have
restaurant's
to have
won a
some,
lot of awards as
they
well.
have to. What was that?
Sorry, you cut out. Your restaurant's won a
Sorry?
lot of awards back in the day as well. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We won, Scartman won two hats, and I think it was Escarpment. Yeah, Escarpment won two hats. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and we've had lots of good reviews for the others. Yeah, so yeah, it was very good.
You miss a restaurant?
Yes. No, no, it's a lot of hard work. It's like the theatre. It's all like programs, lights, your menus,
Yeah.
the audience are in, and then they'll criticize. Now they can sit on their phone and review you. So hard work,
Oh, that's
hard
the
work.
reviews. Yeah, that can be harsh. I actually don't
Yeah,
restaurants. I don't take notice of reviews. I'll just go.
no, I don't. It's like absolutely. The same with TV, and with a lot of things now. I don't always listen to all these reviews because I do read them sometimes, and I miss things. And then they say, no, no, it's great. And then I see it and I think, what's this about? It's fantastic. So I don't, you know,
Yeah.
I don't go to reviews
What
anymore.
troubled me about, I saw a review a while ago. There was a restaurant that opened and they said on their website, please be advised that there is going to be a long waiting time every time you come. It was some hamburgers or something. They said it'd be over an hour wait. So they had the warning on the website, it was all there. Amazing food. And then there's a one-star review. Food was amazing, but the wait was too long.
Yeah. I know it's typical. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's so true. That's so true. And you get people book for 10 people and for a birthday party, and you'd work around that 10, and it'd be a Saturday night, and two would arrive. And they'd say, "Oh, sorry, we meant to tell you the other eight aren't coming." So it's all that kind of thing you have to put up with all the time. And that's why restaurants now
Yeah, it's
make you pay a deposit. And I can really understand because it's so hard. It's like theatre for them to survive. The overheads are so expensive.
You've booked that table out for 10 and then they don't come,
Yeah. Oh, so many times. So many times they did that to us. Yeah. So then you'd start asking for deposits.
which I
It,
think is fair.
it,
I think that's a good idea.
it
Um,
is fair.
yeah. Darren Hembro, who's from the UK, said, how on earth did you get Randy on top of the boiler? Uh,
Oh. very hard work. You know, I had to get a long ladder and throw one leg over. No, I left that to the crew, Randy.
Yeah.
Oh no, not Randy, but I left her to the crew.
He said, it was a bit of a joke, but he said, how did it feel playing such a psychotic male?
How did it feel? I don't know how to answer that one. How did it feel? Um, it was a great character, you know. Yeah. So when I was in character, I felt like David Bridges doing the right thing.
Yeah,
So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
great.
Enjoyed playing. I mean, every actor loves a role like that. You know, it's like an Alan Bates, isn't it, in Psycho, or you know, you like your Equus roles, you know.
Definitely. This was a common comment as well. Rob Higgs said, I had a crush on him despite his character.
Wow. So, despite his character, there you go. Might have ended up, you know.
David Beards would like to know, can you ask David from an actor's perspective, what are the differences between acting in a TV show and hosting a game show, which we sort of briefly touched on?
Yeah, yeah.
Two very different.
Well, I mean, it's very different because, as I mentioned before, that when you're in a TV or in a play or in a film, you have a character, and you know you become the character. That's what it's all. You know, you're acting a character, you're living the character. But when you're hosting a show, you're you. You've
Yeah.
got to 90% you. They want to see you. You can't be phony. It's your personality. So it's hard work because you've got to keep the patter going. You've got to keep, you know, and sometimes it'll be this, you get this, you know, keep it going, fill it in, and you've got to go, you know, you've got to think of what to say. So it is hard work, but great training, you know. So it's kind of nice when you get back into acting again because you can just kind of like disappear into your character,
Yeah, that's
you
it.
know.
What's your favorite food? What do you like to eat? What's your
French
go-to?
food. French food, of course. French food. Japanese food, I love. I love Japanese food. Yeah, basically, I like most food, Italian food, but I do like French and I do like Japanese food. I love the culture in Japan. I love the people. Yeah,
What's your favorite?
nice. And hmm,
What's your
my
favorite
favorite
dish? Yeah, you like.
dish. I love sashimi.
Yep.
I like the simple French food. I love tempura. I love sashimi. I love the hot pots that they have. Beautiful hot pots where you put your own meat in, your own prawns, and very, what are they called? Mushi mushi or something. I can't remember now.
Yeah,
Anyway, great pots. Hot pot. Yeah,
yeah.
love Japanese. It's very different in Japan too, Matt. Have you been?
No, I
Have you been
haven't.
to Japan? Have you been there?
No, I
Yeah,
haven't.
well, when you're there, the Japanese food is very different
Want to hear.
to the Japanese food here because we tend to sort of westernize the Japanese food a little bit, like Chinese food. Whereas
Yeah,
over there, it's really very
very different.
authentic, really nice stuff.
There's a
Yeah,
you've probably heard
very,
of it.
very
There's a
different.
restaurant here in Toorak called Francois, a French restaurant, which I've been to a few times.
You
Absolutely
have?
amazing food. The snails, the steak tartare. The waiters are arrogant as anything. It's all great. Like it's
A
such
real
an
thing. A
experience.
real thing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't beat a French sauce, can you? A French sauce, oh,
Oh,
you know, beautiful demi-glace and a nice, you know, steak and a nice eye
yeah.
fillet and
That's one thing that's lacking from restaurants these days is good sauces. I don't know if you've noticed, but
yeah,
the
yeah.
sauce is not
I-
there. It
I- It's what makes makes the meal actually, doesn't
does.
it? A good sauce. Yeah.
Does.
Yeah. And that's what makes a chef too, is his sauce, you know.
Yeah.
Usually, when a chef is auditioning for a role, they'll get him to cut an onion and make a sauce.
Make a
If
sauce.
you can cut an onion properly and make a sauce, you got the job. You
Well,
know.
I do remember back in the 80s, they used to have chefs that just specialized, they were sauce chefs. They just made all the
Oh
sauces.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we used to have a fabulous old chef when we had the restaurant in Sydney, Simply French. Michel, he was a classic. He'd learned from all the greats in Paris. And he came out and he taught our chef like amazing stuff. And he used to make these sauces, and he would have stock pots going 24/7, and everything would go in that stock pot. And we used to smoke all our own fish. He built a smoking oven, and we put our whole trout in and salmon, big salmon in this smoking oven. Wonderful, wonderful days they were. Don't do it anymore, really.
Ah,
Not a lot of that, you know.
it's all
Yeah,
changed.
it's changed a lot.
Um, Favorite holiday destination? Where do you like to go?
I keep saying Japan, don't I? But I love going to Japan. I love going to the UK. I love going back to the UK because there's so many places there for such a small island. I can't get over how many one and in Australia a lot of people say they say, oh, beaches in Britain, terrible beaches. It's absolute rubbish. I mean, there's some fantastic beaches in England. I mean, I was in Norfolk recently, and Holcombe Beach in Norfolk is like Queensland.
Wow,
Wales has got beautiful beaches. Scotland's got beautiful beaches. Yeah, amazing beaches. So, and I love the counties. I do love going to England. And of course, I love France. And yeah, I like going to Europe. I like traveling, but I do like going to Great Britain on holiday. I do. I always go somewhere new, find somewhere new. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Something I've been doing at the end of this podcast is I've been getting the cast member to leave a question for the next person I interview, not knowing who the question is going to be left for. So I'm going to
Mhm.
get you to come up with a question for the next cast member in a moment. But the question that's been left for you was from Sean Scully, who I'm not sure if
All
you've
right.
yet if
Mhm.
played Dan the Man on Prisoner, said if you were playing a poker machine and you were down $40 and somebody recognizes you at the bar and comes over to you and asks you for an autograph, is that a circumstance where you would be annoyed?
If I lost $40,
Yeah, someone came over while you lost a $40 and asked for an autograph.
no, I would give the autograph. Of course I would. What's $40? Yeah, of course you're going to lose it, aren't you?
Yeah,
You're always going to lose money if you're at a poker machine. Any gambling, you're going to lose your money, you know. So no, I would definitely give the
find
autograph.
the autograph, sell
Yeah.
it for $40.
Yep, I would. I definitely would. Yeah, I would. I would. Some probably wouldn't. I don't know. But I look, I'm not a gambling person, and you know, I'm a I'm against gambling. So hey, that's $40. I'd sign that autograph.
Oh, fantastic. Do you have a question that you could leave for the next, or do you want to email me one?
I might email it, Matt.
That's
Do you
fantastic.
mind?
Yeah,
Think
no, for
about that.
sure.
But
Definitely.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it
Yeah,
to you. I'll think of a good one.
think of a good one.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Offhand. Mm, mm, no, no, I can't. There's too
No,
many things going through my mind.
email him the next
Sorry
few
about
days.
that.
It's fine.
Yeah. All right. I'll do.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and to learn about your life and your career. There was so much more, but obviously we're sort of working with time.
Okay.
You've had an amazing career, amazing man, and I've been looking forward to doing this interview. It's been absolutely
Thanks.
amazing.
Really
Um,
nice talking to you and talking to the fan. Fantastic.
yeah, no,
Fantastic.
thank
And
you
good
so
luck
much.
with the rest of that. Yeah.
Appreciate it,
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
That was episode 64 of Talking Prisoner. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this interview everywhere you can across all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, wherever you can. It all helps. And this episode will also be available across all the podcast platforms or wherever you get your podcasts from. And thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.
I used to give her roses. I wish I could again, but that was on the outside, and things were different then. We'd build our world together, sharing all the love we'd known, till I had to face the nightmare of waking up alone. On the inside the sun still shines, and the rain falls down, but the sun and rain are prisoners too. Last night I dreamed we were together, sharing all the love we'd known, till I had to face the nightmare of waking up alone. On the inside the sun still shines and the rain falls down, but the sun and rain are prisoners too when morning comes around. On the inside the roses grow, they don't mind the stony ground, but the roses here are prisoners too when morning comes around. I used to give her roses, I wish I could again, but that was on the outside, and things were different